and welcome to Pirates.Net. In tonight's game, the Pirates will face the Kingston Hawks, currently 2 places above the Pirates in the league tables. Kingston's gameplay this season has been rather tepid, which is something we'll be talking about later on. Tonight, I predict Damien Smith, defenseman Michael Knight and forward Stephen Johnson to be the prominent members of Kingston's gameplay. And from the Pirates bench, Kevin King, a fast and furious player, John Cotton, Al Latre and Stuart Parker's names will hopefully crop up in the scoreboard in tonight's meet. Later on in the programme, we'll be hopefully speaking to Mr. Peter Oakes, the potential new buyer for the city's #1 ice hockey club. Hope you enjoy the show. Now over to the fans.
Should be quite a close game, so Peterborough is a hard-working team. They give Kingston a good hit usually.
Are there any Peterborough players that you admire at all, that you think are going to do exceptionally well tonight?
People like Stuart Parker and Simon Perkins, Ian Pound, the likes. A lot of the young British players work really hard for each other. But yeah, they've got a good, hard-working team, considering they're nearly all British. Only 2 Canadian-born players.
Do you think the Pirates are going to win tonight?
I hope so, but I don't know. Look at the line-up's a bit short tonight, but we're ever hopeful.
Statistically, Kingston and the Pirates are quite evenly matched. You know, they've both got financial problems. Do you think that they'll both take advantage of the situation tonight?
I hope so, yeah.
Are there any Pirates players that stand out in your mind that you think will do well tonight?
The Cotton brothers, I think they'll do quite well tonight, hopefully.
Also, Peter Oakes is hopefully going to take over the club. What do you think this will mean? Do you think that we'll be able to bring in imports and whatnot?
I hope so, yes. The side needs strengthening.
And what do you think will happen if we don't, if Peter Oakes doesn't buy the club?
I think, unfortunately, it's a shame. I think that...
So what will you do then? Obviously Sunday afternoon.
I don't know. Be desperate, really.
What do you think about Peter Oakes buying the club, the potential new owner?
Brilliant.
Do you think he will buy it?
Yes, I do.
And what do you think it'll mean for the club if he does, or if he doesn't?
Excellent. He's done well for the Speedway. He's done brilliant for the Speedway. And I think he'll do it for the Pirates.
I think it's absolutely crucial for the club that he does buy.
Yes, I do.
How do you feel about Peter Oakes maybe taking over the club? Do you think this is a good move? Do you think he's the right man for the job?
Well, if he can do the same as what he's done with the Panthers, yes, he is the right man, and he's going to run it as a business. Fair enough. I mean, we're travelling 100-mile round trip to come and watch them this their 12th season. So, yes, I hope he can save them.
The Pirates have won 1 game so far in the Premier League this season. How crucial is it for Peter Oakes to buy the team?
Well, as we've been saying all week in the press and on the radio, and appealing at last week's game, you know, this could be the last that you see of the Peterborough Pirates on a professional basis, you know, so it is very crucial tonight. Peter Oakes, or if Peter Oakes steps down, maybe someone else can come and put their money in and help us, you know.
If Peter Oakes does buy the team, will this come just in time? Or is it too late to improve the gameplay of the Pirates this season?
It's not, by far not too late, because we've got 45 games left this season, so there's lots of hockey to go for. No one's going to finish this season unbeaten. You know, these are blowing hot and cold. Everyone's blowing hot and cold, and we've got our problems now, so I'd sooner get the problems sorted out this side of Christmas.
Kingston have beaten the Slough Jets, possibly an unbeatable team for the Pirates. How has it affected the Pirates psychologically, or hasn't it?
Psychologically, the players can be in a better frame of mind. They're really flying the flag for this team, and I mean the British players. We're down to 1 import now, and he's out tonight. Okay, Ian Pound, relative speaking, he's import, but he's classed as British. But the British boys, I mean, the Perkins, the Cottons, you know, them sort of boys, Parker, and McFadden, they're flying the flag for us. They're really digging their heels in and keeping this club alive.
Last night's score, 16-6. Do you think this score will be reversed as a home game in Peterborough Arena?
Oh, our problems are repeating themselves week after week, game after game. Our attitude in a game is to go at them, go with them, you know, for as long as we can, and that's what we're doing. I mean, last night we went 2-0 up, and we were all over them and getting stronger. They tied it at 2-2. We went 4-2 up, and then, you know, I think it gets to about the 16th minute in the second period, and the legs are gone, and we're just, you know, the tired legs kills us.
Will the Pirates be taking advantage of the fact that Kingston Kingston needs to be strengthened and are also under financial difficulty.
Oh yeah, but I mean, that's the least of our worries. We're not bothered about that. We're just taking each game as it comes. We want to beat them on the ice. We want to beat them in front of our own fans. And yeah, they've got their problems like we have, but that's by far, you know, not what we're worrying about. We're just concentrating on doing our best, and hopefully, fingers crossed, take some points off them.
So what are your predictions for tonight's game then? Do you have a score prediction?
Well, I know for a fact that for at least half the game, we're going to be with them. We're going to be going at them. We're going to be the better team. I know that. Hopefully, at the end of the game, I can't predict that. Hopefully, it's going to be a win for us.
So Keith, which players on the Kingston side do you think are going to do exceptionally well tonight? Are there any that stand out in your opinion?
Well, you know, we got the likes of the Russian side of things. They're playing extremely well, especially Dino Balba right now. Dino's playing very solid, good offensive hockey, as well as Sinkov. And with Chris Eimers, our Dutch international, on that line, it's a pretty potent line, and, you know, that line's been performing very well.
And the Pirates, are there any players in the Pirates that worry you at all?
Well, yeah, you know, any game you cannot get into an overconfident situation. I noticed Kevin King's out there tonight, you know, and Kevin used to play for me at Bracknell, you know, so he has some talent, and I think he's a gutsy little player, and I think he'll work out hard, you know. Again, Stuart Parker's done well, Simon Renning goal, you know, so generally, you know, we'll just play our own game plan.
For the team that has beaten Slough Jets, how easy do you think tonight's game is going to be for the Hawks?
Well, in the reverse, I think with the press situation that's going on with regard to, you know, their economic sort of situation, and they're open for a full house tonight, and if this buyer comes in, well, you know, these guys are playing for their job. So I think it's going to be a lot harder than people predict. I know we're certainly not taking it lightly right now.
The Pirates are in dire straits right now. Will the Hawks be taking full advantage of the team's physical and economic situation?
Well, I think I just sort of answered that in a way. You know, that, like I said, they're playing for their jobs tonight. If this owner comes in, he wants to see 110% effort. And I know a lot of these guys, and I think that's exactly what they'll give them. So as far as us taking advantage, I actually think it's a disadvantage with the situation to the Hawks as it is right now, rather than an advantage.
So what are your predictions for tonight's game?
We're hoping for the 2 points. We're sort of mid-table-ish at the moment, but you know, we're looking for 2 points, and I expect a victory off my guys tonight.
Thank you very much. went without a hitch. Were you pleased with this?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, that's the best 60 minutes of hockey, you know, we've had all season, and that's all British boys out there. You know, they're giving their pound of flesh. You got to take your hat off to them. I just hope the supporters have gone away happy tonight.
You're always talking about you wanting the players to give 110%. Tonight, I felt that they did at last. Will they keep on doing this, do you think?
Yeah, most definitely. You know, we've got the guys playing two-way hockey now, which is the most important factor in hockey, you know, at all levels. You know, you have to play two ways. You know, you have to forecheck, you have to, you know, when you lose possession, you have to get back and regain possession again. And we did that, you know, perfectly tonight.
The second period, I thought, was by far the greatest. It's usually lets a team down. Why was this?
Well, that's just, you know, that's just a myth, really. I mean, it can be any period, but it just so happens just lately it's been our second period, you know. But, you know, as I said, hats off to the boys. You know, they did all they can. And we've just got to get ourselves a couple of imports in now and get ourselves settled and climb back up the league.
A very big, noisy and supportive crowd tonight. Do you think this helped at all for the players?
Oh, definitely. We're the best supporters in the country. There's no doubt about that. You know, we're famous all over the country for our animal corner. And, you know, when it comes down to it, the supporters have been, you know, they're unhappy with what they've seen. Obviously, they pay good money. But we asked them to come out tonight in full vocal, and they did that.
Based on tonight's performance, what do you think Peter Oakes is going to say in the bar in the meeting?
Well, Peter Oakes couldn't see a better game of hockey from British boys, you know. He's got to be standing over there now saying, well, all I need to do is get together with the officials of the club and get some good imports in here. We need a goal scorer and we need a big tough guy at the back.
Do you think he's going to buy the team?
Fingers crossed, I hope so.
Oakes mentioned 5 points that he'd like to improve the club. Do you think in the long term his plans are going to work for the club?
I'm sure they will. If Mr. Oakes can get the team around him that he wants and everybody moves together in the same direction and gives Mr. Oakes their utmost support, I'm sure that he can achieve the objectives that he's looking at and push this club to a level where perhaps many people here in the club and indeed around Peterborough would never have expected.
And what's your opinion on Peter Oakes' proposals?
I think they're an excellent idea. We've seen different management and administrations down the years, and everybody's given it their best shot, and we've all fallen by the wayside. We've been to this precipice, as we've been told, a number of times before, and the public in Peterborough has seen it in the press a number of times before, and they say, oh no, not Pirates, in trouble again. But I think Mr. Oakes has probably got the chemistry and the system to actually take this team and the people of the club to where it wants to be.
Do you think this has come too late for the Pirates, or just in the nick of time?
I think it's come in the nick of time, but I think that things have to change so radically that it's like taking a full stop, having a breather, giving Mr. Oakes time to actually consolidate his position and what he wants to do and the people around him, and then take a brand new start, perhaps in a few weeks' time, without question, from any other quarter, but to get full assistance from everybody around him.
In theory, this sounds quite good, but what do you think about reality? I mean, obviously people aren't going to go quietly, the people that don't want to go.
No, they're not. I don't think I'd be in a position to actually explain that one, being as I'm just a helper here, in the fact that I do the announcing with some others. But and I'm not sure what goes on in the other circles in the club, in the other levels of the club. Politics has never been my strong line, but sometimes politics within the club has always been the club's undoing. And I think people have to understand that people must be seen to be part of one club and not have their own little domains and different opinions. What anybody does in this club, regardless of who he or she is, must be doing it for the good of the club as a whole.
Okay, well thank you, Chris. Peter, what attracted you to the Pirates in the first place?
It really was another professional sport in Peterborough. That it all really started by absolute chance, that I was talking to Simon Potter and simply said to him, well, you know, how's the ice hockey going? And we started to talk, and in the end he said, would you ever be interested in taking it over? And I said, well, we'd always look at it. And then suddenly, I think probably 2 days later, I had a phone call from him. He simply said, you know that conversation, were you actually serious? And I said yes, and it sort of developed from there. We then had a series of meetings with different people.
Which factors did you take into consideration when thinking about this project?
Well, from a purely personal point of view, that we were looking at it as an adjunct to our Speedway operation. Speedway runs on virtually the opposite season to hockey, and it would suddenly turn us into a 52-week of the year business, and we could see a lot of mutual benefits to both sides as far as marketing, as far as sponsorship, as far as fundraising was concerned. Also, I've been, I'd say, an irregular fan of Bretton over the last 2 or 3 years, but my grandson is quite a fan and goes as often as he can, and really it was a combination.
So can you help the Pirates, and will you help the Pirates?
Unfortunately, no. We're not in a position to now. That we had a particular plan, which was a 5-point plan, which has been fairly well publicised, and I think we made it plain to everybody concerned, including Dick when we first spoke to him, that unless all those 5 points came together, then we certainly wouldn't look at it. We were only looking at it as a business proposition. I have to make that absolutely plain.
So why hold the public meeting last Sunday if you hadn't cleared up all these points with the other ice hockey teams within the club?
Because there was no point to clear up with the other ice hockey teams. That we were in a situation where our 5 points included one was that we needed to know that we had the support of the fans, which was why the public meeting was called. We'd already spoken to the ice rink, we'd already spoken to the PIHL with Paul Biffin. In fact, we'd already spoken to the chairman of the Peterborough Ice Hockey Club, that I'd spoken to him, I think it was on the Thursday or the Friday before the public meeting. I told him what we were doing and said I would like to meet you, either afterwards or again and talk about it. So, they were fully aware of the situation, that they knew the 5 points, and if they now pretend that they didn't, then I suggest that they talk to their chairman, who was fully conversant with it. I think, in fact, even Dick spoke to him as well to tell him what was happening.
So you're not taking on the Pirates. What would you say to the people that say that you just publicise this for a publicity stunt?
Why? What do we gain from it? That who on earth would travel down to see Paul Biffin and Gary Steffen? Who would spend? I think we must have spent 120 man hours. That we've no need for publicity. Why should we get involved in a publicity stunt?
So will you reconsider your decision perhaps in the future? No.
I don't say not in the future. I'd never say never, never again. But certainly it's not in a situation where we'd reconsider it at the moment. Because of the, you've talked about it, everybody talks about it, the constant bickering between the two sides, and fortunately we thought we could go in with a clean sheet, and people, we had no access to grind, we weren't involved in any of the past indiscretions. I accept totally that there were problems on both sides. A lot of people seem to think we've simply used the islanders as scapegoats in all this, but we appreciate that. I believe they'd had a raw deal in the past, but they didn't appear, the Peterborough Ice Hockey Club now, to be willing to forget all that and to get behind us. As simple as that. That's why we pulled out.
So Dick, what do you do now?
Well, as I said earlier, we intend to fight for as long as we can. I must admit that it was disappointing to hear Peter's decision. I feel personally that Peter's organisation would have been ideal for ice hockey in Peterborough, not just for the Pirates. He has a proven track record, very professional outfit, and as Peter himself touched on, independent of all or some of the problems that have been around us for a while. So I'm disappointed on that, but what I've got to do, I've got to accept Peter's decision, and we've now got to look at what else we can do. We're very limited options at the moment. The lads are going into this weekend's game under their own steam, so to speak. They've organised that themselves, and basically that will be the final game for Peterborough Pirates as it is now. But having said that, we like to be optimistic. Peterborough's had its back to the wall before. We've turned up at that rink and found the doors locked, the ice dug up, and we've still managed to find a way to put ice hockey back on in front of the public. So I believe that we should pursue all options, even from tonight. You know, we can appeal to anyone that feels they can add something to the Pirates. The introduction of a complete new organisation would have been ideal, but there is another alternative, and that is if people were to come forward to join the present board or take part in a new organisation, a management team, whatever. So they're the other options that are open to us, but we've got to be realistic, and I think that we have our backs to the wall, and I don't think that we're likely to have anyone come through right now.
So what happens to the remaining Pirates?
Well, as I said, that I don't think they want to believe that there aren't going to be a Pirate team anymore, and they've agreed to go into this weekend on their own. I'm sure that some of them have had offers from other teams. In fact, even without the last 2 or 3 weeks that we've gone through, some of them have probably been approached. But to their credit, they've stuck with the team. The majority of them have stuck with the team. And those that have stuck with it, I would hope that they actually find other teams to play for. We've made the league aware of the position that we're in, and that they can maybe look to circulate people's names to other teams. I guess there might be a few scouts down there on Sunday having a look and seeing if there's players that they can use in their own organisation.
Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you for joining me here in the studio on a matter which is of great concern to many of you, I'm sure. For those of you who missed the Pirates' last game, you can see the highlights on the last Pirates on 8 programme on this Saturday at 1 p.m. and again on the following Wednesday at 8 p.m. Thank you again to my guests, and thank you from me, Sarah Bulmer. Good night.